Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the IroC podcast. My name is IroC, and this is the intellectual relations of consciousness. So today we are sitting here with one of the greatest in the month of August, Renali, our very own Godman, August. Say, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
I'm great.
How are you?
I'm great. And thanks for honoring our invitation and thanks for coming through. I know I'm still a young guy who's willing to do this, and I'm still not sure what is it that I want to do necessarily within the green movement. Right, if we can call it that, or the environmental movement. I'm still not sure, but I'm thinking that this podcast will definitely be the voice to the voiceless, and it will be more used to teach the youth about what are some of the opportunities that are happening nationally and internationally, globally. So about camps that are happening, summits that are happening, to also bring some ideas on what is it that they can do, the marches that are happening, be it is happening on social since Rilma 2000 and other stuff. So yeah, man, just like that, I just wanted to say welcome to the IroC show.
Thank you.
So tell us about Ubuntu Hub, because I read and then it tells me that you are a community manager. So I want us to move from what is a community manager to what is Ubuntu Hub, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, if I may tackle Ubuntu Hub. So Ubuntu Hub, it's the name, like it says, Ubuntu Hub. It's the name of the hub, which we are in right now.
Yes.
So the Ubuntu Hub itself is it's under Planet One.
Okay.
So meaning that Planet One is the biggest sphere that supports, or in some ways you can say a mother body that supports Ubuntu Hub. So when I mean support, I mean when it comes to issues like making sure that the resources are there to make sure that whatever happens within Ubuntu Hub, then the resources are there to support those initiatives that happen there. So Planet One itself, it's a global initiative.
Okay.
It's a global initiative that looks at supporting youth climate movements in globally. So it is based in different countries. More specifically, I would be more relevant in terms of the African context.
Okay.
So in Africa, Planet One is in 3 countries, which are Kenya, South Africa, and Cameroon. So for each country, we have different names for the hubs. Like ours, as I said before, it's Ubuntu Hub,
yes,
which is one of our biggest values in Africa that we live by. And then we have Ubunifu, which is in Kenya.
All right.
And then we have Mboa in Cameroon. So these are the 3 hubs in Africa that are supporting or working towards building the African movement or the youth climate movement within Africa. So the thinking around the existence of the hubs was and still is that we want to see youth voices within the climate movement raised,
Yes.
most especially in the African context. That is the fundamental existence of this hub, of these hubs actually.
Of like the three ones.
The three ones, including the ones in like Sweden, the ones in Armenia, etc. So those, the main existence is to uplift those, the youth climate movement. And within that, it's also to make sure that we create global platforms that youth can meet and exchange ideas, and feel that also create the relationship amongst the youth globally and also in the context of Africa. Yeah, so that those are some of the objectives that Planet One came into being, to make sure that the youth voices are elevated, spaces are created for the youth to come, meet, implement, and execute the ideas and the activities that they want to see in their own context. So in this space as Ubuntu Hub in South Africa, the existence of Ubuntu Hub is mainly making sure that the youth have a place to gather.
Sure.
The youth have a place where they can share ideas, a place where they can collaborate. They have a place where they can receive support in terms of them being able to execute their initiatives. So in essence, here at Ubuntu Hub, the initiatives that the youth come with to Ubuntu Hub, we support them for free, making sure that the resources that they need are available so that they can realize their dream of wanting to execute a certain initiative.
Sure.
So the role that we play in Ubuntu Hub, actually, we actually give the youth, they plan their initiatives, they implement their initiatives. So our role is only to mentor them. We do not dictate how they execute that. Our role is just to make sure that if they need support in, for instance, when they write a concept note, and we look at the concept note, we see certain things that we can assist them in terms of mentoring. That's where we get in. So we don't dictate them. It starts with them, it ends with them.
I mean, that sounds like you planned this. Like when the fight was like, what is Ubuntu Hub? How do I answer this? Or is this how you got like your position as being like the community manager? Because you leave, like you get home, you wake up, you're like, good morning family, this is Ubuntu Hub. You know, you come back from work, you're like, good afternoon family, this is Ubuntu Hub. Or how did you get to be like this community manager who's well vested in understanding globally the climate challenges and how the youth has been impacted? I want us to maybe like take us a bit back, you know, before we come to you now, you know, take us a bit back. Maybe there's also another August, you know, in this month of August. On thing somewhere in the township, maybe like me, I'm like, you know, to be like, how did we get here? Where did you like step off the curb and be like, okay, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, no, I think my background,
Yeah.
it stems from different places and different, what you call, different workplaces.
Sure.
So I've started, for me to be where I am right now. I started in home in Orkney, in a township called Kanana location.
Sure.
So Kanana location is surrounded. It's a mining area.
Okay.
So there's a lot of mines there. So at that time, as you're growing up, you never really paid attention to environmental issues. You grew up seeing mines, and it was normalized that this is the way of life. And when you finish school, you just want to go and work in the mines.
In the mines, because
Like
that's where everyone is like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you've seen your family members, your relatives, all of them, they worked the mines.
Sure.
So for me, then I actually chose a different route. I don't know what mining is. I don't see myself working
Yeah.
in the mines underground and blasting and doing all these things. So, but then the route that I chose then was more in the health aspect. So I started as a volunteer. I've worked in a number of organizations. I've worked for Love Life,
Okay.
like going around facilitating life skills programs within different schools.
Shout out Live Life.
Yeah. So in different schools, I also then we then in our township there was a small organization which was called Guidance Education Youth Project. Guidance Education Youth Project actually identified me while I was in high school, because they used to come in our high school and they used to teach life skills. So I got really interested in that, and then I joined them while I was in high school, and then volunteered my time every time and worked with them. And then that's where my passion with like the health aspect or this the life skills aspect came into being. So I volunteered with them as well for a number of years, I think 5 years, and then from there to Department of Education, Department of Health, and we worked with clinics, locally based clinics, where we used to do different, participated in different elements, being one, the DOTS, DOTS program. It was a TB program, where DOTS really stands for Directly Observed Treatment Short Course.
DOTS.
Yeah, DOTS. So what we did there was to go around in the community, deliver medication to people who had TB, and then like helping them out, those who could not get to the clinic. So then I also did home-based care. Home-based care, which means then we went to different households and helped people who are like bedridden, sick.
I know those.
Yeah.
Actually, just whilst we're still there, shout out to everyone who's like out there and doing that great job of like going to see like all those people who are not feeling well in terms of their health, and just to like take care of them. I know, I don't think they're actually earning much.
No.
They are not. So that means it comes with a lot of passion. So if you're out there and you're thinking, what is it that I can do? There are people who are going to different homes to take care of people that are not well. So as we were saying, Khotman.
Yeah. So I did that as well on a voluntary basis for, I think my volunteering took about 5 years. Yeah. So I spent 5 years volunteering, which was very challenging because it was not fashionable then to be a volunteer because everyone was glued into wanting to be a miner.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So we got a lot of challenges that, for an example, people would laugh at us. Like, Lona, you're wasting your time here. You are actually not going to achieve anything through this. Your shoes are finishing, torn. You're not even getting paid for this. You're just wasting your time. Rather go find a better job. But we soldiered on.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, there are other people who fell away. So then from there on, I think there was a bigger picture that all of us, I think, were not seeing at that time when we were doing that work, the work.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So the bigger picture being that through all those initiatives and the time that we took, we then got opportunities.
Right.
Like, for an example, when I moved from those sectors and I joined like big sectors, like I joined a research unit called the Oram Institute. This is a public health research institute.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so they were doing a lot of research on HIV prevention.
Yes.
Doing clinical trials in the Kosh area in Klerksdorp. So the district itself, it's called Kosh. So we then joined there and started working. That was my formal job. Like, and that, I think that was in 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I got my formal job, and I actually worked there, which was really, really, really good for me. I really have to say that opened my eyes in a lot of things that I was not aware of. I learned a lot of things about research and how a medication comes to being, what are the background things, what is the work that is done in the background to get to something when they say this is approved, people can consume this, people can take this certain pill, people can be injected with this, and what goes behind that. I got really exposed and learned a lot from that. And I've learned a lot because we're given a lot of opportunities, not only to stick to what you are doing as a community person, but to also be granted opportunity to learn about things like data within the workspace, how valuable data is.
Data to us, the 2000s, guys. Ababuika your data from your social network provider, your network provider. Data meaning like information collected from like different people, and then storing it so that you can use it later on.
Yeah, true. So you got to be exposed to such things. You got to be exposed to what you call quality control in the research industry and how that is done. You know, you got all these exposures, and you got exposures to also travel, go abroad, meet with different people, and learn how other countries are approaching their research and how do they work with communities. Because the one thing that's big is that research cannot survive without an interaction or relationships built with communities. Right. Because for you to end up having a medication that is approved, there are phases that you have to move to. You start with like the animal phase where you test, and then once that is proven to be effective at that phase, then that has to move and be tested in clinical trials that are now involving humans, which starts at a low rate number of people and then move up until you find, depending on the trial itself, where you get to find that you now have a trial of like maybe 5,000 people. Now you are testing this vaccine to see whether it works. So I've learned a lot in that. I can talk about that the whole day, but that's where it started. And then, I moved from that sector, which is public health sector. I went to another public health sector in Baragwanath, which is called Perinatal Health Research Unit, PHRU for short, in Bara. And then from Bara, I moved to Vets Health Consortium as well, which is a research unit. I spent a number of years in those organizations. And if I were to think about it, I think in the NGO sector now, I have about 16 years experience in the NGO sector. I've never worked for any corporate, and I don't see myself working in corporations. Like, I am comfortable in an NGO sector space. And that's where it took me to then realize that there's an intersectionality when it comes to health and the environment.
So this is where Greenpeace, ladies and gentlemen, comes into place, right? And when you read about August, and then you find that there is something called a volunteer coordinator, meaning is a person that takes people who want to be volunteers for Greenpeace, and he did that for all the 3 major cities in South Africa, which is Cape Town, Johannesburg, and also Durban. So if you'd like to be a volunteer in Greenpeace, just go on the description box below, and then you'll find all the details. Mr. August, just take us through on what is it that you were doing there?
Yeah, so like I said previously, no organization or be it a corporation can survive without a community. Yeah. So you need the support of the masses to actually flourish as an organization. So the volunteer program within Greenpeace brings volunteers who are like-minded and those who are interested in wanting to understand more about environmental justice. So these are people who really push the mandate of the protection of the environment and push the objectives of the organization, which also include they push the objectives of their own community. Yes. From a climate justice perspective. So I had to make sure that within these 3 major cities that you've mentioned, yes, that we do have communities that are working towards such goals, which is protecting the environment. And my coordination really was to make sure that the groups are existing, the groups are supported, making sure that the groups are supported with regards to issues like training, being able to know that this is how we plan an activity. This is how we go into our community and collaborate with other people. And how do we partner with other organizations? What is the best way of approaching those? So when I was coordinating those groups, that was my role in making sure that such things are happening in different communities. As you may know, that every community has its own context. Yeah. So you needed, as a person who was holding that position, you needed to make sure that you firstly understand the context of those areas. And secondly, you needed to understand the context of the same volunteers who are part of the program. Because for me, I believe working with communities is not just a tick box kind of work. It's to make sure that you understand what are their immediate challenges that they are working on before you can start coming with your mandate of saying, I'm coming here as an employee of Greenpeace to push my own agenda without understanding whether your agenda links with what the community needs or wants at that point in time. So I always say to work with communities, it's not a tick box work. It takes a long time to build such relationships and to get to be trusted by the communities. And by so doing, then you will be able to create that everlasting relationship. So that was, in a nutshell, my role in the volunteer coordinator position then. Yeah.
So do you think that gave you enough courage, and it also gave you enough experience to now be here and you are working with the youth? I mean, like Rafi Klarema 2000, I believe like we are just like one unique generation of which a lot of us, I think we are still even also struggling to like understand what is it that we want to do, how do we want to do it, you know? So when you're talking about like 16 years experience within the NGO sector, I'm like thinking, hey, Konje Chief, how old am I? And I'm like thinking, hey, this guy has been around. This guy has done a lot. So now we are here, Planet One, Ubuntu Hub, you know, and you are working with the youth. For those who don't know, Planet One Ubuntu Hub is in Johannesburg. The address is 163 Smith Street. It's in Braamfontein in Johannesburg. Now, why Braamfontein, being that Bram is also like a hub for like students? Why was it like an intention, Velo no, we won't take it to Randburg, we won't take it to Sandton, Regasi say, you know, to other places, but we want to bring it to the hub of where students are? You're quite right. This was a strategic decision because, like you said, this is where the hub of the youth are. And if we want the project to really work and address issues, we need to go where the relevant audience is. Because if you are not reaching the relevant audience, then it's as good as your project being non-existent, because you're not going to really achieve anything in that regard. So, and the other reason is that, look, Braamfontein, it's, if you look at Braamfontein geographically, public facilities like your transportation, this is where, if you're going downtown Johannesburg, like really like most taxis pass through Braamfontein. Secondly, Braamfontein has schools, has colleges, has churches, you know, and there are initiatives, extramural initiatives that happen within Braamfontein, that where the youth really gather. The good and the bad, by the way.
Yeah, so that's where that is why I'm saying it was a strategic move to make sure that when we open here and we want to achieve our goal or objectives of bringing youth that are already have the know-how of the climate movement, and the youth that are not ignited when it comes to the climate movement. So where better you can find those youth in Braamfontein, then you bring them together. By bringing them together and they start sharing. The other one comes with the perspective of climate justice. The other one comes with the perspective perhaps of, oh, I'm good in organizing and things like that. And they meet each other halfway, they exchange ideas. Yes. And from those ideas, an initiative comes out. And the information is shared between the two parties or the two groups. So those who did not know about climate justice, because of meeting with these ones, then they can now, as you guys call it, they also become woke.
Yeah, we are woke this side.
So they become woke in terms of them now understanding, oh, when you talk about issues of climate change, oh, this is what they actually mean. And who better yet who can deliver that message than their peers?
True.
You know, so this space is to really make sure that those elements are realized by the youth together and walking the journey together. So for me, that was a really strategic move to have Ubuntu Hub here. And I think ever since we've started, we are seeing that. And you find that we get here, you find youth write their concept, they want to do a certain initiatives. And when they come and talk to us about their initiative, you find out these guys are actually involved in climate justice in one way or the other, but they are not realizing.
We all are. We actually, as you're talking, right? And you're talking about the youth coming together. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing. Today marks the 25th of August, right? It marks a year since I've been with Greenpeace. And I'm thinking, I came into Greenpeace, I'm an entertainer. I come from that space and I've been doing my podcast. I've been behind the cams. I've been behind the sound desk. I'm doing all those stuff. But I knew that I'm an activist and I knew that I'm a social activist. I was busy with other movements, other organizations, working in my community, and then boom, Greenpeace comes in and they're training. I'm like, what training? I'm going to get it, right? And now when we meet for the first time, it's on Zoom. We talk, I'm like, okay, I'm not even used to this. By that time, I'm thinking, you know what? I don't want to be involved in this climate thing. I don't understand what is this environmental issues that they are talking about. I don't know anything. And then we meet for the first time. There is a group called the Eco Shapeshifters. I meet the Eco Shapeshifters. It's people from all over South Africa, but we also had people from other parts of Africa as well. They flew here and to get to understand how everyone in Africa they relate or correlate one way or another. And from then I started to understand the power, of collaborating, right? Of which I think here in Ubuntu Hub, it's something that I've seen happening, where people, we come in, we share different thoughts and advices. And also, like you're saying, the youth come here, they share what they think, they share what they know, and then we become climate activists from that, right? But there is someone there at home who doesn't know what is it that I'm going to do, because in this country you have like a high, crazy youth unemployment rate. How do we tackle that within us being activists in this environmental space?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that come, or the advantages of being in spaces like this, like Ubuntu Hub, it's the opportunity of gathering skills, where you get skills within the hub, because we offer trainings, and these trainings, the biggest purpose is to make sure that our youth have skills, and not just skills that can be able to get them into the employment sector. But more over and above is that we are also looking at making sure that the youth get skills that they can become self-sufficient. Not only to just go with your CV, apply for jobs, but making sure that with the different skills that come within Ubuntu Hub, people can put their heads together and develop or employment for themselves and other youth. So we try in that sense to make sure that to address the youth unemployment, especially in the context of South Africa, is to make sure that our youth not only rely on the mainstream way of getting a job, but getting skills to make sure that they can make money and support themselves through their initiatives. I can give a quick example. For instance, we took youth to a training, a permaculture training, which is sustainable farming. Teaches you how to grow your crops. And that skill, if you really practice that skill, you can firstly start small and plant in your yard, at home, backyard, grow things and start selling those things, and you get an income from that, without having to run around with your CV and dropping CVs everywhere, but creating your own employment, which in turn that will or might grow to become a lucrative business where you are able to employ other youth within that. So we try by all means to look at those, and what we also do is to seek opportunities that are out there for our youth that come here, like employment opportunities. When there's an opportunity that we see and we think about our youth, we share those opportunities with our youth to make sure that they get work. And obviously most of our opportunities that we get are within the environmental justice space. And we do have people, even from the volunteer coordinator side, who are now employed because of being a volunteer and getting experience. Yes. Even here in Ubuntu Hub, we have the youth now who are employed in different sectors because they also got these opportunities within the space. So we try by all means to make sure that what we stand for is what we link our youth towards, which is jobs that are sustainable, healthy, jobs that are safeguarding people's life, jobs that are putting people first before profit. So we do that to make sure that our youth really see the value of being part of the climate justice movement. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I believe there's like youth, right? And there's different types of youth, right? Who are affected by things that are going right on, like in this country. And I think there's the youth that is affected by the connections of other people. There's the youth that is affected by corruption. And I think this is where most of the people fall into. But then we also have this other youth who is affected by gatekeepers, right? And we have Ubuntu Hub, which is like in the center, of like students, which is in the hub of like where students are mostly at and the youth is mostly at. I want to know how is it that we can like take away all the attention from like other people who are being gatekeepers, and you find out where somewhere out there is also someone who's like, I'm trying to get through to Ubuntu Hub. I'm trying to maybe host the show. I'm trying to like record my own podcast. What is it about Ubuntu Hub that makes all the other gatekeepers to like crash down and to give the youth hope?
Yeah, I think for me the uniqueness of Ubuntu Hub in relation to gatekeeping is that the manner in which the project was designed or conceptualized throughout those phases to come to implementation is that all the red tapes that youth are going through to access, for example, spaces like this.
Yes.
I would let me just make an example. When I say red tapes or gatekeeping, those are eradicated here. In other words, for us in our project, that does not exist. And why do I say so? It's because, number one, there are spaces like this that exists that requires the youth, for them to be able to access such spaces, they need to pay, for instance, a certain fee.
Like an access fee type of a thing.
Yeah, access fee that they have to pay. And some spaces, they have to pay like a monthly fee to access spaces like Ubuntu Hub. Now, the difference with us is that here, we do not have those kind of things within the space. Every youth is welcomed here.
Yeah.
Come at any time. Come find out what we do. Once finding out what we do, you find things that resonate to you. You come, you put your plans together with other youth for your community, or you want to host your initiatives in the space. You do that with no payment that's needed. So I think that in itself opens up an opportunity or an environment that allows youth to flourish. So by so doing, then eradicating or removing those red tapes or the gatekeeping aspect of this environment within Ubuntu Hub. So I think that's the uniqueness of the project. Mm-hmm. And I think this is why we also seeing youth, like an influx of youth visiting the hub. Because we have one offer called, for example, the drop-in space. So a youth can literally be walking on a street and they see Ubuntu Hub written outside and they're inquisitive, wanting to know. We don't work on an appointment basis.
Okay.
At any given time, someone can just drop in, ask questions, wanting to know who we are, what we do, and things like that. So by so doing, we're removing that barrier.
So on like weekly basis, what's the number that you usually get? Let's say this is like your busiest week in the month.
Yeah.
When do the youth come here? Do they come here month end, during the month, beginning of the month?
Yeah, so it varies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we cannot say that we see most of the youth, especially when we talk about drop-ins.
Yes.
Because remember, by the time we open at 9, then we close at 5 p.m. So in between that, the time where the youth are free, that's when we see a number of youth coming in. For instance, there are weeks where we would see perhaps 50 youth just coming in that week for information's sake, wanting to know what happens. And the good thing about that is that after getting the information, then that gets to equate or produce activities or initiatives that come up from the youth after knowing who we are, what we do. So for example, with also other NGOs, we've hosted NGOs in what we call bookable spaces. You find that in one day, you host an NGO, they want to have a meeting, planning meeting, whatever it may be, find that you get 50 people in one day coming to the space. So it varies. The numbers vary, but the one thing that we are seeing is that our numbers just keeps on increasing. And just to maybe for the listeners' sake, Ubuntu Hub was launched only on the 21st of September last year. But when we look at the number of youth and organizations that are coming to visit or individuals that are coming to visit the hub, it's a lot. We are actually achieving what we set out to do. Yeah.
Sure. So with everything that is happening, we are now in this time where we have this thing happening, right? And a lot of people are asking themselves to say, what is it that we can do? When can we do it? What is actually happening? Some people, they see this thing happening, right? And it's been making circles on social media. And that is being that maybe you are with, you are following Greenpeace, for example, or you are following Planet One, Ubuntu Hub, Boa Hub, Ubuntu Hub. Here is an opportunity that is arising, and it's happening in the Middle East. And this thing is called the Climate Justice Camp, right? I want us to take us, obviously by the time this is airing, people are no longer sure to say, when is it happening? But by the time you hear this, guys, it is already happening. So you cannot apply for 2023, which is their second, right? But I'd want you to take us through to 2024.
Yeah.
To say, when will people be actually applying? What is this camp about? And why is it about the youth?
Yeah, I think the most important thing about the
Climate justice camp.
climate justice camp, the most important thing is that it's bringing the youth
Sure.
in the climate movement together globally.
How nice is that?
And the reiteration or the emphasis is more on the global south, making sure that we have a huge representative in that aspect.
Sure.
So that's like one of the goals of the climate justice camp. And secondly, is to make sure that youth have access to information that is somewhat beyond their context. So in other words, when they get there, they get a chance to meet with different experts in the climate justice camp. And the experts really share relevant information that they can use in their localities. And they get a chance again to share their local expertise and how they are advancing the climate justice movement in their own context. Thus, that in itself brings an opportunity of global collaboration for the youth.
Global collaboration. So you might be in South Africa and be given a chance to collaborate with someone who's not even in Africa.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do people like get into such spaces?
Yeah, so basically this is what happens. They're organizing teams and all
Yes.
of that, because one thing people need to know as well is that the climate justice camp is an unbranded camp. So in other words, this camp is organized by different NGOs in the environmental justice space. They all come together and contribute towards making this a realization. So when you go to that camp, you won't see any pull-up banner that says Greenpeace. You won't see any pull-up banner that
Friends of
says,
the Earth.
yeah, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Because that space is dedicated for anyone who is in the environmental space, whether you belong to an organization or you are an individual doing, implementing your initiatives in your different area. So what happens is that then you apply online to say, so usually we get the application links and all of that. So we share wide in all platforms. Then you just apply, and then from there, you then get chosen to attend the climate justice camp. So it's actually a fair process for everyone to apply and be part of the climate justice camp. So it happens every year. So the last year, it was in Tunisia. This year, it's in Lebanon. And then next year, we'll know after this camp when it's happening and where. I personally feel like my ambition is to see the climate justice camp in South Africa happening here.
And that would be nice.
So that's the thing. So that's how you get to connect or be part of the Youth Climate Justice Camp. And just watch out on like Ubuntu Hub, Greenpeace Africa, Greenpeace International, all of that. All these organizations, they share such information. Check that out. Go to websites, go to social media spaces. As soon as those announcements for the 2024 camp come out, then that will be shared.
Yeah. But to tell you one thing that you shared, right, and that I like, you spoke about a lot of chances for the youth. The youth get a chance to do this. A youth get a chance to be mentored by this. A youth get a chance to experience like all of this, right? And whilst we're still talking about chances, that have been given to the youth, here is a chance for the youth in Africa to like address their issues, right? There's this thing that is happening from the 4th up until the 6th of September, 2023. It's happening in Kenya. So it is called the African Climate Summit. I'm not sure if the people are aware, right? And most of the time when I'm talking to the people, I'm talking to the youth, right? I'm not sure if like the youth are aware of this summit that is happening. Obviously, not everyone gets to make it there, but there have been some circulation of videos that have been like shared by different activists and like also ordinary people, about what is it that they want people who are there in this summit to actually voice out about like their different struggles in different communities in different countries, where in South Africa we are having this crisis of energy, and it's like the leading thing, within the environment. But then we also have like the air pollution that is happening. How can people actually take it there, even when you are in Kenya? You are in South Africa, I mean. How can you take your message to Kenya to say, I'm in South Africa, I'm in Joburg, and I'm experiencing load shedding. So whilst you guys are there and you are discussing climate, there is an energy crisis. How can people get to share, And I've also seen there's also some few hashtags that have been happening. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think a number of organizations in Africa are participating in the summit in Kenya, and that really provides an opportunity.
Yes,
and for people to deliver their demands in the context of Africa, because African leaders will be there, and decisions are going to be made there. And for us to make sure that the decisions that are taken in the Africa Climate Summit,
yes.
The only way we can make sure that our voices are heard is to actually, if you are not there physically, go to social media. Check. There are links. You can, it's either you upload a video talking about your demands, or your issues that you are facing in your local context, and how you want our leaders to actually deal with that, address it. You share that. Yeah, for an example, you go to Greenpeace Africa. There's been currently a call out to say, this is happening. What are your views? What do you want the leaders to hear?
I think I saw one of you. Was it on Instagram? Did you post something also about?
Yeah.
And what inspired that?
Look, I think the thing is, we can, like you said, we cannot all be there physically.
Yes.
But in this age, we have alternatives such as social media, and us actually sharing such information, assists people who cannot be there to voice out their views. And by that doing, this gives our leaders an opportunity to address locally relevant issues that are coming from their masses. And their masses are to be taken seriously by our leaders, because for our leaders to be in existence, it's because of the masses. So the voices of the masses are very important to be listened to. And this grants different organizations as well to be able to be there and participate and influence the narrative or the policies that are discussed there and how things are being taken forward. That's an opportunity for those organizations to represent the communities in their context, be it in the African context, be it in the global north context, because this is Africa Climate Week Summit, but it's obviously not limited to Africa. There will be media that will be there, international media, globally. And we need to utilize that.
I didn't think of that, actually.
We need to utilize that. The more demands we have from the global south, the better it is, because those demands are going to be shared globally, and the global south as well will know that the African context and the demands are these, and that will influence how things are executed in the African context and the global south context.
Sure. But you know one thing, ne? I always think, right, when these summits are happening, when indabas are happening, when all these different camps are happening, people usually gather to talk about, like, this is an issue that we are facing. You know, these are the grievances that we are, like, wanting to bring there. Can also this be a space where, like, the youth gets to bring solutions to the table?
Yeah, this is the whole aim of this summit. For these summits to exist, I believe that the fundamental factor for the summits to be there is to explore solutions. Because the thing is, we can talk and talk,
yes,
but if we don't bring solutions, then we will be wasting our time. And I think the other thing is to also close the gap between the masses and the leaders, closing it and making it narrow and creating such relationships with our leaders. So that, I think for me, is the purpose of all these summits that are happening in and around the world.
Sure. Let's take a pause there before we introduce the new and exciting segment for the IroC podcast. So, here is a new and exciting segment. I think this goes out for all the activists who are out there. This is called Nominate a Hero. And what we want to do here is to actually get that one person, that organization, who doesn't really get, like, awarded for their work. And here in the IroC podcast, we just want to say thank you for the work that we are doing. but I do not nominate. My guest is going to nominate one. Mr. Maluka, please nominate your hero and tell us why.
Jeez, man. There are. I think for me, my approach would be not a specific person, but a specific organization. And this is an organization that's it's outside the environmental sector.
Yeah.
We have an organization based in Hillbrow, actually. It's called the Outreach Foundation.
Okay.
So this is an organization also addresses, and I'm gonna be very biased here. I love working with the youth. So they deal with youth development in many sectors, and it goes as far as addressing issues of kids that are orphans. They try by all means to connect them with people that can assist them, and they also give opportunities to enroll kids in schools, kids that are not in school, take them to school. You know, this organization, I've actually known this organization since, I think it's about 8-9 years now. So their focus is more of making sure that children are protected, children are fed, children are developed intellectually, children have a safe home. Children are generally taken care of. So for me, that's actually a big thing that needs to happen, which speaks which speaks to our value, our principle as Africans about like Ubuntu.
I was about to say.
Yeah, it's Ubuntu. What they're doing is that they are Ubuntu-fying, in other words. Yeah. Our way of life is African people. So that's for me those are the heroes that are out there. Yeah. So I love that, and I've just came to understand that they're also now introducing a climate justice aspect.
Oh, nice.
Within their organization. So this simply tells you that this is not just an organization that's not in touch with the world.
Yes.
It's actually showing that they're in touch with the world because they see how climate change
is getting to affect.
There are a lot of kids and their day-to-day function as an organization. So I think for me that's an organization that I would really just to nominate and put it out there. So people, for those who don't know Outreach Foundation, it's everywhere on social media. Go through your social media, Google it, you'll find it.
I think I'll also include their details. I'll include them, and just to say shout out. But I just want you to do two things. Firstly, and then just look into the camera and just tell our listeners as we are wrapping the show, how can you get hold of Ubuntu Hub? Besides that is in 163 Smith Street. And by the way, shout out to Ubuntu Hub for allowing me to record this in their premises. Ubuntu Hub, follow them on Instagram. Are you available on Facebook?
Yes, we are. So on Facebook, our handle is ubuntu.hub. Yeah, just ubuntu.hub. Hub. So on Instagram, you find our handle is ubuntu.hubsa. Hubsa is HUBSA. So that's where you can find us. And yeah, just watch out. We will be also pretty soon, once all the technicalities are done, we'll be having our TikTok page that will be coming up. So watch out for that. Then you will know the handles and all of that. But that's where you can find us outside of 163 Smith Street, Brampfontein. And I always like to give this description to people. People usually know Brampfontein, where we are, with the previous restaurant that was here, Mangrove.
Yes.
So the Mangrove restaurant where Mangrove was, just in the same yard, but behind Mangrove. So that's where, and the other landmark that they can use is just next to Star School. So we are just in between Star School, in the middle of Star School, just there. That's where you find us. Yeah. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an honor, privilege, and a pleasure to chill with one of like the legends in the making, Mr. August, on this August. My name is IroC, and this has been the Intellectual Relations of Consciousness. If you are not smarter, you are at least wiser. Signing out.
Yabo.